1. Diary of a Trans Woman is brought to you, as always, by each and every one of the fine folks over at patreon.com/Diary of a Trans Woman. If you want to learn more about how to support this show and keep more of this good stuff coming to you, head on over to Diary of a Trans Woman's Patreon page at patreon.com/Diary of a Trans Woman to learn more about supporting the show. Hello, everybody. Welcome to episode 53 of Diary of a Trans Woman. This is another chilly December night. It's the 21st. It is almost Christmas time. We're going to be talking about, we can probably talk about what my plans are for Christmas. And we're also going to be talking about a podcast recording that I attended last week that was really awesome and really fun to go to. Other than that, we're going to be talking about a couple of news stories here, a graphic, and a little guy named Mark Moan, and a very interesting advocate who spoke out at the University of Wisconsin-Milwaukee. So without any further ado, let's go ahead and jump right on into the show. Okay, so first off, I want to talk about this podcast recording that I went to for a really long time now. Not as long as some of the other shows that I've listened to, but one of the podcasts that I listen to religiously has been the Risk podcast. Risk is a podcast hosted by Kevin Allison, who was a former member of the MTV show and comedy troupe The State. He basically has taken his show and took it from doing it once a week or once a month in a dingy bar to traveling all across the country doing shows. And the way that he does his shows are very, very unique. If you listen to any of like This American Life or the Moth podcast, that kind of stuff, you're going to hear a lot of people telling stories about their lives. And what Risk does is it takes the stories that are too much for general audiences, too much for public radio, and puts them, I wouldn't say on display, but displays them proudly and has people tell those stories. So Kevin doesn't necessarily do a whole lot of talking on the show. The majority of the podcast is every week. It is a number of people getting on stage and telling these shows. A lot of them are live shows. Some of them are recorded in a studio. And it's full of these incredibly deep and amazing stories that I love, and they all deal with stuff that is stuff that's sensitive. A lot of stuff is mature. It's sexy. It's funny. It's sad. It's triggering. It's anxiety producing. I have listened to episodes of this podcast where during the first half, I'm laughing my ass off, and during the second half, I'm crying. So I've absolutely loved listening to this podcast, and because I find that there's a lot of power in someone's story, and this podcast is definitely one of the reasons why it is. Listening to this podcast gave me the basis for the structure of this show. Every week I come on and I talk about my life, and I tell essentially a story in a narrative style, which is something I like. I think that hearing someone's story is a very intimate experience and really kind of makes the storyteller vulnerable to their audience. And that can be good and that can be bad, and it can help people and do a ton of different things. But the people that get up on stage and do these storytellings are very, very they're definitely putting themselves out there in a way that is very extreme. I come on and I talk about mundane crap all the time, and these people that get up on stage are talking about personal things, deep things, and telling these beautiful stories. And I absolutely love the intimacy that the show provides. Now, if you know anything about me, some of the other podcasts that I listen to, such as The Morning Stream, or We Have Concerns, or Night Attack, the Jury podcast, that kind of stuff, most of them are on the Frog Pants Network or the Diamond Club Network. And through a little convention out in Salt Lake City called Nerdtacular, I have grown to be, I would think, friends with the hosts of these shows that I've listened to for years. Gradually over the years, I've gotten to know a lot of the hosts. How, like, I crashed in one of the hosts' houses in Denver when I was driving through last summer here. So I think it's a safe bet to say that I'm their friend. Maybe, yeah, I have friends. Yeah, I definitely think of myself as a friend to Scott Johnson and to Brian Ibbett and to Justin Robert Young. However, Kevin Allison, this guy who hosts Risk, I have never even met before. And that's it doesn't necessarily make a ton of sense, because this is a guy who goes all over the country. Like, every day he's in a different place, and he always winds up back in New York to do a show every week or so. And so on their podcast, they were talking about they were going to come to Detroit on December 15th. So I had to go and carve some time out of my schedule and go and see it. And I'm incredibly glad I did. Just some amazing people there. And Kevin is hilarious. There were 4 storytellers, and unfortunately, I don't want to say unfortunately, but a lot of what that podcast has to offer is it deals in funny stories, sexy stories, that kind of stuff. None of the stories that were told that night were funny or sexy or anything like that. They were a foster parent dealing with how the police handled a white foster parent dealing with how the Detroit police handled his African-American children. And we talked about bullying in school, and we talked about a suicide, and how somebody felt like they could have made a difference, and they still decades later have a small amount of guilt attached to that. And it was just a very, very intimate look into these people's lives. And I don't know about the rest of the world or anybody else out there, but I absolutely treasure those moments where I get to share people's stories, where I get to share my own story, and when I get to hear someone else's story. Because hearing someone else's story is a sign of trust, a sign of intimacy. I remember 2 years ago when I was flying out to Salt Lake City, I took 2 flights. One it was Chicago to Denver, Chicago to Phoenix, Arizona, Phoenix to Salt Lake City back to Denver, and then Denver back to Chicago. And so it was very, I got to see a bunch of different cultures of people, and I wound up sitting next to some very interesting people. A lady who grew up in the church and her experiences with that. I got to talk to her about that, and an elderly couple, and this elderly man who was very, very nice and talked about his time protesting or advocating for Fidel Castro in Cuba during I believe like the 70s when he was in college, and how he looks back on that and realizes how terrible that was. And so hearing those stories and listening to people open up like that is I feel so honored to be able to share in that with people. And so this podcast Risk is something that I truly enjoy listening to, because it gives you a feeling that you don't usually feel very often in real life, a feeling of trust, a feeling of just like, I don't know. I think empathy plays a little part in it too, but it's a very unique feeling, and it's very hard to describe. But I find that there is a lot of power in somebody's story, and I was very happy that I was able to attend and witness that. It was a lot of fun because after the show, I went and hung out and chatted with Kevin Allison for a little bit at the bar, and he's one of the nicest people I have ever met before. Just the biggest smile on his face. He's somebody who I know travels around a ton, so he's not. And I know from hearing um, detailed reports of another person who had a job where he was flying around every day, that kind of wears on you. It wears you down a lot. And despite all that, this guy was able to be like an amazingly friendly person, and somebody who was so easy to just talk with, and so approachable. Very, very cool guy to meet. And I got to tell him that he was one of the inspirations for me starting the show and winning the 2016 Best LGBT Podcast Award. So definitely thanks to Kevin Allison for that. It was a pleasure meeting him. So yeah, that's what I did with my Thursday night last week. It was a ton of fun, and I really hope I get to do that again. If you are ever in a place where the Risk Podcast happens to be visiting your town, I encourage you go out and go to one of those shows. It is something that you don't get to experience very often. So yeah, that happened. Not much else is going on right now. Christmas, the holiday plans. I know I touched on it a little bit last week, but I'm still not sure what I'm going to do. And I wish I knew. I wish I had this planned out in my head. I wish I had an idea, because I want to go see my aunts and my cousins and my grandparents and everything, because it's been a long time, but I haven't really decided yet. Right now I'm working on plans to go up maybe after my parents leave, but I feel so sneaky doing that. And I did receive some suggestions, some messages from people on Facebook encouraging me to go and attend my family's Christmas get together anyways. And I've thought about that, and I feel petty with my responses, because there is so much pent up rage against my parents, and I don't. It's very, very hard for me to get over that, because we've talked on this show a lot about the statistics of transgender individuals and whatnot, and there's a huge correlation between the amount of attempted suicides for transgender people who have accepting families and the amount with families that have rejected them. And I don't really talk about it very much. I don't like to bring it up and discuss it that much. But about, I believe, 2 days ago, so that would have been the 19th. December 19th was the 1-year anniversary of me graduating college and getting my degree in education. The day before that, the 18th, was the 1-year anniversary from when I tried to get incredibly drunk and drive my car into a wall. I was very, very fortunate that I had somebody there, Rochelle, who is now our PR person here. She was there to talk me out of it and to get me back to a manageable state. And I have risen above that so much. My life has gotten so much better, and I'm so glad I'm here to be doing this and to be living the life that I have. But back then it was so much going on in my head about leaving college and not knowing what to do, and having a relationship that just crumbled before my eyes instantly without nothing I could do with it. And to just be the cherry on top, I had no family to turn to. And so, yeah, I am part of that statistic, I guess. And that makes the idea of going back to my parents even harder, because to a certain extent, I blame them. And I feel I can say that pretty easily. I blame them. They kicked me out. And now I don't know if things would have been better if they had kept me. Certainly there is a huge percentage of transgender individuals who attempt suicide who have families that have accepted them. But my chances were a lot higher when I was kicked out. And so I can't believe that they would do that. And I can't believe that they would blow this off. I haven't talked to them about anything anything super serious, any long conversations on it since that day. But before that, I've quoted that stuff to them. I told them the statistics and everything. And it just seemed to slide right off and go in one ear and out the other. It wasn't something they wanted to talk about, so they pretended it wasn't being talked about. And so that's a big reason as to why I don't want to go back to my parents and go back to see them, because I blame them. And it's very hard for me to get over that. I have a lot of pent up rage. I have a lot of pent up aggression and anger towards them. I have a lot of hatred towards them. And I don't necessarily know what to do with that except channel it into a constructive atmosphere like I'm doing here. I hope this is constructive. I assume it is to someone out there. But yeah, that's kind of the reasoning behind where my mind is at right now. So not everyone, hardly anybody knows about that. I believe 2 people outside of this podcast know what happened a year ago. So everyone out there listening, like, don't go spreading that around. Nobody needs to know that. This is our little secret with me and these 2 people and everyone else around the world listening to this right now. So, so yeah. Regardless to say, like, I'm doing a lot better. I have been feeling amazing. My life has been going much better than I ever could have imagined it a year ago, or even 6 months ago. I can't believe where I'm at right now, and I feel so thankful for everything that I've got in my life right now. So, no need to worry about me. So yeah, that's what's been going on in my head recently. I guess there's not much more to say about that. If you have any thoughts on it, I'd love to hear them. I know I kind of did shoot down the people who messaged me and asked me to consider going, but it's still refreshing to hear that. It is something that weighs heavily on my mind. It is something I think about a lot. And so if you have any thoughts or concerns or conversations you want to have, feel free to email me, message me on Facebook, Twitter, whatever. But let's go ahead and jump into our other thing here. Oh crap. Nope, we're gonna stall. We are gonna stall because while I'm gonna stall by talking about the episode and why it is late this week, because an issue with my soundboard. These awesome little bumpers and music clips that you hear going on, I think are a big part of why this show. I think it adds to the show a lot. Having little musical bumpers in the middle of it, I think is a big thing. And for some reason, I cannot figure out how the hell to figure out how. Oh, what the. All right, if you're listening on the live stream, you get to see a little bonus crap, but my stream got messed up. Okay, I cannot figure out how. Shit. We're going to figure this out. All right, so processes, performance, app history. I need, not app history, for soundbite. Processes, performance, processes. Processes called soundbite. And we are going to go ahead and destroy that process so we can get this soundboard back up and running. There's no soundbite on here. Is it going to work now? Is it going to work? Nil object. Oh. Yay, we have a soundboard again. All right, where the, okay. Cool. I cannot figure out how. Okay, we're back. I got everything figured out. To kind of summarize what's been going on, I have been using a web-based soundboard to do all of the bumpers and intros and outros, and I think that the intros and outros and bumpers are a key part to the feel of the show. I really like what Same Sex Mary did, and they gave me permission to use their stuff, so I value that a lot. So I want to do a show with bumpers, except my soundboard on the website was always down, which is why the show has been delayed a few times. And I just got a new program to do a soundboard, but it froze up on me. But I got it back. So let's go ahead and jump into news. All right, this first article is from out.com. Young transgender girl appears on cover of National Geographic. This is a big thing. I'm not exactly sure what there is to talk about it with, but we can definitely. I definitely wanted to bring it up. National Geographic is doing a gender-centered issue for their January 2017 magazine. So we have a very young, looks like about 7-year-old transgender woman on the cover, and the cover says "Special Issue: The Gender Revolution," and in quotes, the best thing about being a girl is now I don't have to pretend to be a boy. And it's January 2017. I am very eager to get my hands on this. I think it's going to be a good thing to have. So the article states, quote, the January 2017 issue of National Geographic will feature a 9-year-old transgender girl, Avery Jackson, on the cover to celebrate the gender revolution. This is the first time in the magazine's long history that a transgender person will appear on the cover. Her photograph is accompanied by a powerful caption. The best part about being a girl is now I don't have to pretend to be a boy. Though Jackson only appears on the subscriber version of the magazine, the newsstand version will still feature transgender, intersex, and other non-binary people on the cover. Oh, so if you subscribe to the magazine, you get the one with Avery on it. If you get it on the newsstand, it will have a number of different kinds of people. And they show a photo of, it looks like all of the models that they used for the covers. And it's really awesome because you have, I mean, I'm looking and I'm seeing 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, about 15 different people. And huge mixes of gender identities and whatnot. Passing, not passing. They look transgender, probably non-binary. I'm not sure what their titles are, but you have this representation of a ton of people on the spectrum. So I'm very, very excited to get this. According to National Geographic, the gender-centric issue will spotlight articles about modern American standards of beauty, the quickly changing definition of masculinity, and the science behind gender identity to explore the cultural, social, biological, and personal aspects of gender. Gender Revolution, A Journey with Katie Couric, a 2-hour documentary on National Geographic, will further analyze the evolving concept of gender. The documentary will premiere on Monday, February 6th at 9/8 Central. So, very cool. I'm definitely looking forward to get my hands on this. I'm gonna do my best to maybe I can collect them all, get all the different colors or covers. That would be kind of cool. So, not a huge thing to talk about because the article's not out yet. If I get my hands on one, I'm definitely going to peruse through it, find the good articles, and we'll talk about them on the show. But yeah, let's move on over to this is a news story from MediaMilwaukee.com, and I do want to just kind of say kind of right off the bat, I want to keep this podcast clean tag on iTunes, so I will censor as much of this as I can, but it is going to be heavy language, so be prepared. MediaMilwaukee.com. Transgender student tells UW Milwaukee chancellor to F off after Yiannopoulos' speech. And it goes, quote, the UW Milwaukee transgender student who was singled out by controversial speaker Michael Yiannopoulos sent an angry, expletive-filled email to Chancellor Mark Moan, accusing the chancellor of insulting her and engaging in GD lip service. So what happened here is this guy named Milo, I looked into him a little bit. He is a very, very alt-right gay activist, very much a like gays for Trump and that kind of thing, and very against transgender individuals. I'll try and find the article here so I can talk about it on this page. Media Milwaukee. Okay, yeah. So yeah, this guy came and the college had this guy Milo come to their school and talk to them. And I listened to a bit of the speech, and it was absolutely terrible. I can't imagine how somebody who is part of this queer culture can have these stances towards other people who are, while not having the same identities, having similar struggles. Anyways, I'm gonna go ahead and if I can find it down here, I want to play the bit, and just be warned and keep in mind this is a British reporter who is gay and a alt-right activist. So hang on and just go ahead and listen to this.
Man Up's a big no-no for liberals. They're intent on eliminating masculinity from culture. Toxic masculinity and rape culture are some other idiotic things they like to say in their war against men. Well, I can tell you one UW Milwaukee student that does not need to man up. And that is Justine Kramer. Do you know about Justine Kramer? Have any of you come into contact with this person? There's a quote-unquote non-binary trans... You're not laughing now, are you? You know him. Quote-unquote non-binary trans woman forced his way into the women's locker rooms this year. Who knows about this story? Any of you? So you don't even read your own student media. He got into the women's room the way liberals always operate, using the government and the courts to weasel their way where they don't belong. In this case, he made a Title IX complaint. Title IX is a set of rules to protect women on campus effectively. It's couched in the language of equality, but it's really about women, which under normal circumstances would be fine, except for how it's implemented. Now, it is used to put men into women's bathrooms. I have known some passing trannies in my life. Trannies, you're not allowed to say that either. I've known some passing trannies in my life, which is to say transgender people who pass as the gender they would like to be considered. Well, no. The way you know that he's failing is I'd almost still bang him. It's just a man in a dress, isn't it? should reapply my lipstick, sorry. Tonight I'm here to talk, however, not about any individual students because it's mean. Or about the words you are and are not allowed to say, or any of the other various wonderful things that I was going to say about Wisconsin.
Okay, so that's the clip. That is one little snippet of the 2.5-hour video here of this guy's bullshit, and it was terrible. This man came into this college in front of a sold-out crowd with a woman, Adelaide Karen Kramer is her name, in the audience, and put a photo of her very early on in her transition from about, I believe it said 2 years ago, and put that on the screen and proceeded to absolutely ridicule her. And so this chancellor, the guy who is essentially in charge of a big higher up in the school, posted or sent this email out to just a mass email to the college. Dear faculty, staff, and students, Milo Yipanov spoke tonight at the University of Wisconsin-Milwaukee as a part of his nationwide college tour. I have spoken with students and others who opposed the appearance, and some of them protested tonight. I understand and appreciate their concerns and perspective. Yiannopoulos' stop at UMW was a sponsored by a student organization, Turning Point USA. UWM is prohibited by law from restricting access to its facilities based on the viewpoint of a student organization, guest, or speaker invited by a student organization. Free speech is one of UMW's core values, and I will support the students' decision to bring a wide array of speakers to our campus, even if the speaker is controversial, and even if I disagree with him or her. One of the core tenets of public university is public universities is learning about the world by communicating with people who think differently than we do. I would not deprive students from our community or of opportunities to hear diverse viewpoints. That said, I do not agree with Yiannopoulos' views, and I strongly condemn the belittling of others and their appearance and the encouragement of hate and harassment. I will also not stand quietly by when a member of our campus community is personally and wrongfully attacked. I am disappointed that this speaker chose to attack a transgender student. We are proud of the work of our LGBT Resource Center, as well as the faculty and staff members in fostering inclusivity and earning us recognition as one of the top universities in the nation for LGBT plus students. I'm going to skip the rest of it because he basically just says, you know what, we don't do that. That's not cool, bro. And so Adelaide Kramer, shot back with this email. When it loads, I will read it. And this is where the language comes in, because Adelaide's email is very strongly worded. Chancellor Mark Moan, go F yourself. I am the trans student that was attacked, and your email is nothing short of insulting. I wasn't going to write this email at first, even after Milo attacked me, but then I saw your email, and I am so effing sick of your GD lip service. Seriously, go F yourself. Your email? I don't even know where to begin. Also, I don't care if you feel offended or harassed. Welcome to my life, sue me. I'd be more happy to defend my free speech in court, since this is what they call it apparently, to lambast your ass for being ungodly, effing, pathetic ally. And quite frankly, I don't care who the F reads this email, as you can tell by by the CC, or what people think of me. I'm aware of where this email can end up, so be it. My give an F card was thrown out the window a long time ago. I'm going to write about you and your effed up bullshit. Your words. I will not stand silently when a member of our campus community is personally and wrongfully attacked. That is probably the biggest piece of GD effing bullshit I have ever read. What exactly do you plan to do? Oh yeah, nothing, because you're a cowardly piece of shit. You're not standing silently apparently consists of a single email mass sent to the university. That's it. You didn't get a effing cookie for that. You don't get an effing cookie for that. What else were you going to do? Nothing. You were planning on doing a jack shit. Do you even attempt to reach out to me? Nope. Not even an email. Nothing. Instead, it was supposed to suffice to just send a nice little bit of polished hogwash to the general campus. Is that right? Were you trying to head off student protests? Were you trying to head off student protests calling for you to be sacked or something? You'd like nothing better for this to just blow over. Seriously, what the hell are you even doing right now? You say you're not standing silently by, but bull effing shit, you pompous asshole. Yes, you are. Don't act like you didn't know this would happen. You knew, GD, well, it would. I lost track of how many people pointed this out to you. And what the hell did you do when students tried to organize and deliver a petition to cancel Milo's event? You effing called the cops on them. Like, what in the living F? Your asshole level is off the charts, especially because you feign concern about this with one hand while backhanding all of us with the other, because there's nothing like the threat of state violence to keep people in line. So I'm going to skip the rest of this email. It is about 6 pages long, and looking back, like, this was a huge outburst by Adelaide, and looking at it, there may have been another way to handle this, but I don't believe that this outburst was uncalled for at all. I think that there are so many people out there who witness these attacks and see gay and trans and non-straight, non-cis people, non-white people being attacked, and then they go and they make a little Facebook post and they feel good about themselves. And so I think that this is just this chancellor's idea of what a good way to handle the situation is incredibly wrong. And I actually went and I looked up Milo, and I see that he had been banned from Twitter for doing something or other, something very extreme that was harmful to other people. So that's no surprise there. He has a history of this stuff. But Mark Moen, the guy that wrote the apology email, the chancellor of University of Wisconsin-Michigan, he has the Twitter account @MarkMoen. So feel free to go and give him hell. On December 13th, the last tweet that he made, Milo spoke tonight at UWM. We value free speech on campus, even if we don't agree with it. And that, that is not free speech. What happened there is not free speech. What happened there is hate speech. And the attacking, the verbal attacking of one of this guy's students. And so he's willing to, like, stand behind this guy and say, yeah, we want you to do free speech. I don't agree with you, but yeah, you keep going. You keep doing your thing. Like, we value your free speech. What about our free speech? This is a gay man who is part of the alt-right movement, who is an incredibly bigoted and terrible person. Looking at his history, this Milo guy is just completely messed up and a terrible, terrible human being. How can we give him free speech and not allow free speech and the freedoms that to trans people or to other people who are part of this LGBT community? I think that that's absolutely disgusting that we can't do that. So yeah, if you'd like, @MarkMoen, MarkMone, jump on Twitter and give this guy hell, because he deserves it. That was a completely bullshit apology that was sent out, and I don't think that is I think it's terrible. And if you ever come across this guy, Milo Yiannopoulos or whatever his name is, give him a nice clock in the mouth for me, because that was absolutely terrible. Not only was it a terrible, terrible thing to say, but it was an unfounded argument, and it was just a very heinous thing to say. So, and the fact that people got together and protested in front of this guy's office and said, hey, we don't want this guy coming here. Something bad's going to happen. And the fact that this guy called the cops on them, I think that is a big sign as to where University of Wisconsin-Milwaukee stands. And I think it's unfortunately a sign of where a lot of college institutions these days stand. there are a lot of administrations out there in these higher education establishments who don't want controversy, and they want to appear to be smiling. They want to make sure that when people look at them and they see a very happy and well-maintained school with a lot of constructive things going on, and they don't want to show that there are problems in their society. And so I think that it's very important that this kind of thing be revealed, that people talk about this thing, that people get this stuff on people's radars, because if people don't know about this, if Adelaide hadn't have written that email back to Mark Moan, nobody would have heard about this. Nobody would have cared. You may have heard one person on the street talking about this to you, but nobody would have said anything about it. So yeah, go give Mark Moan hell on Twitter. Please do that for me. If you have any questions, comments, and concerns, please send them over to diaryofatranswoman@gmail.com. The Twitter site or Twitter for the show is @TransDiaryShow, and I am @AbbyGeek. We are also on Facebook now. I don't talk about very much, but the Facebook page is getting a lot of activity lately. Many thanks to Rochelle, our new PR person. So thank you so much for that. Jump on over there. We are compiling a list of transgender-friendly institutions, whether that is places that have gender-neutral bathrooms, or hairstylists that will gladly give someone who does not pass as a woman a feminine haircut, or basically compiling a list of safe spaces. And we want to do this across the United States. Like, no matter where you live, we want to start compiling a list and hopefully doing something with that data and making a guidebook for people to find safe spaces, because there's a lot of places that aren't safe for a lot of trans people out there. So we want to do our best to provide information to them. So jump on over to Facebook or Twitter or any of those outlets. If you want to support the show, head on over to iTunes and give us a 5-star review. We'd really appreciate that. If you want to learn more about supporting the show monetarily, Patreon.com. We have 19 people on Patreon donating a total of $52 an episode right now, and I cannot tell you how glad that makes us. That makes me. I'm able to do a lot more now. I have bought a domain for the show. I'm not going to say it yet because the website is still in construction, but because of your Patreon support, we've already started to expand and to grow this show to be something bigger. We have new recording equipment. We have a website now that we are working on. We're doing video episodes now. So if you are watching on YouTube, hello. I'm waving at the camera now. If you're listening on the podcast, you can't hear that, and oh well. So yeah, patreon.com/Diary of a Trans Woman. Please consider donating. Every dollar is going to go towards supporting this show. So that just about does it. All the music in today's show is courtesy of Same Sex Mary. I do not say it often enough. Same Sex Mary. Oh my God, this soundboard is still messing up on me. I guess I can only keep it open for about 10 minutes at a time before it shuts down on me. I'm going to have to buy the full version pretty soon. So anyways, we got it open. Like I said, music for the show is provided by Same Sex Mary. More of their work at samesexmary.bandcamp.com. I want to take a second to talk about these guys, because Same Sex Mary is headed by James and Svet, who are out of Las Vegas, Nevada. They are some of the most amazing people I have met. Two awesome individuals, and they kindly gave me permission to use their music on this show, and I think that we don't really pay attention to it that much, but I think that music, those bumpers, those little tunes that you hear in the middle of segments, really add a lot to this show and do a lot for this. So please jump on over, give their stuff a listen. It is incredibly good. Artwork for the show is provided by Taylor Elaine Straw too. Head on over to shoot, I'm blanking. I don't know. Check out TaylorLanePhoto.com. Bye. And that's the show. All right. I see we have a viewer in the live stream. Thank you so much for watching. This video should be up on YouTube pretty freaking soon. Thank you so much for listening, everybody. Have a good night.